Hey, fifth graders. This is our last review slides for the test review. These are day 4. So get out your journal and let's get cracking. Okay, so our first problem is a PEMDAS step. So let's read the question. Which step would be first when evaluating the following expression? Remember, when you see the term or the words evaluate the expression, it's just a fancy way of saying solving the problem. So which step would be first when solving the problem? So again, don't forget that our PEMDAS calls for parentheses first. We don't deal with exponents in 5th grade. Then multiplication or division, whichever comes first, and addition or subtraction, whichever comes first. Okay, so again, parentheses first, no exponents, multiplication or division, whichever's first, addition or subtraction, whichever's first. And the fancy brackets, that just means that everything in the brackets has to be done first. So that means we have to evaluate the expression, if you may, or solve the problem, all the problems in the brackets, and then we can do the rest of it. So if we start from the left and work our way towards the right, we're looking for parentheses, and there we see our first parentheses of 9 multiplied by 3. So the first step in solving this would be to multiply 9 by 3. Easy, breezy, beautiful, cover girl. Next slide. So our next problem is called write an equation. And essentially that's what we'll be doing, using the information in the word problem and creating an equation. Miss Jones bought 4 dozen pencils and Mr. Miller bought 6 dozen pencils. Which equation can be used to find P, how many more pencils Mr. Miller bought than Miss Jones? Okay, so when looking at this question, and anything like this, whenever it asks you to write an equation, I like to solve the problem first. The best strategy that I find here is to solve the word problem, and then you'll have an answer. You'll know what P is. So then you can go through the answer choices and make sure that you find the one that equals the correct choice. So let's go ahead and solve this problem first. All right, let's move this out of the way so I can do a little bit of math. Okay, so Miss Jones bought 4 dozen pencils. So I'm just going to put a J for Jones. That's the first one we'll solve. And of course, it does help to know that a dozen means what number? 12. Okay, so she bought 4 dozen pencils. That's 12, which is how much a dozen is, multiplied by 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 1 is 4. So Miss Jones, the J is for Jones, bought 48 pencils. Now let's figure out how many Mr. Miller bought. We'll put M for Miller. Mr. Miller bought 6 dozen. So that's 12, which is 1 dozen, multiplied by 6. 6 times 2 is 12, and then 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So Mr. Miller bought 72 pencils. How many more pencils did Mr. Miller buy than Miss Jones? So this is easy. We just have to take Mr. Miller, who had the bigger number, and subtract Miss Jones, who had the smaller number. And 72 minus 48. We can't subtract 8 from 2, so we'll regroup and make that a 6, and this becomes a 12. 12 minus 8 is 4, and then 6 minus 4 is 2. So that is the difference. So that's going to equal P. So 24 is P, which is the difference. That's how many more pencils Mr. Miller bought is 24. So now I just have to go through these answer choices and see which one is going to show me that P equals 24. And these are pretty easy. I can probably do these right here. I can see the first one. Let's solve this one first. Okay, PEMDAS says that I do the parentheses first. So 6 plus 4 is 10. So this is 10 times 12. And I can already tell that's going to be too big because I'm looking for P to equal 24. So 10 times 12, I already know is going to be too big. I don't have to solve it, so I'm going to get rid of that one. Let's look at the next one. We'll try to solve this one next. Parentheses again, we'll do that first. So 6 plus 4 is 10, and 10 minus 12, that doesn't make sense because 10 is not big enough to subtract 12 from, and we're not learning about negative integers yet in fifth grade. So yeah, that doesn't make sense either. Okay, now we'll solve this one. Okay, let's check this one out. 6 minus 4 is 2, and then 2 minus 12. Again, I'm running into the same problem here. That does not make sense, so it cannot be this one. Hopefully this is it, because I'm running out of problems here. Okay, 6 minus 4 is 2, and 2 times 12 is 24. So this one does show 24, which is what P equals, and that is how many more dozen Mr. Miller got. So my answer choice is this one. It doesn't have an A, B, C, D, so I'll just circle it. Next slide. Okay, this is solved with a variable. So we know that a variable means when a number is replaced by a letter. So let's read the problem and see how tough this one is. If n equals the number of tickets, and the price for a concert ticket is written as 8n plus $9, what is the cost of 7 tickets to the concert? Now, I'm not sure why this formula is written this way, but this is what it's telling me how they calculate the cost of tickets. So that means that 8 multiplied by n, because when we have a letter and a number together with no symbols, we know that means multiply. So 8 multiplied by n plus 9, and n equals the number of tickets. Well, here it tells me that 7 is the number of tickets. So that would mean I would have to take 8 multiplied by 7. Again, parentheses next to a number with no symbols also means multiply. Remember, that's one of the only that is the only operation that we can remove the multiplication symbol when we're dealing with variables, because we don't want to confuse it with the letter x, because multiplication symbol looks a lot like the letter x. So we're going to put this in parentheses. 8 multiplied by 7 plus 9. And 8 times 7 is 56, and 56 plus 9, 9 plus 6 is 15, and 5 plus 1 is 6. So it's going to cost them $65 to go to the concert, which is this one. Not too bad. Next slide. Okay, so what we have here is just a straight PEMDAS, solve, evaluate. You might see the word evaluate instead of solve. Don't get freaked out by these fancy words. It just means solve, evaluate. The expression or evaluate, it means solve. So this one has brackets. The whole thing's in brackets, so I have to figure out everything inside anyway. Remember, PEMDAS is a P for parentheses. We don't do exponents in 5th grade. Then we have multiplication or division, whichever one comes first, and then addition or subtraction, whichever one comes first. And I can tell by looking at this, I do have, nope, I do not have any multiplication or division. So it looks like I'll be doing some addition and subtraction. But first, let's start on the left. That's my L for left. And I'm going to keep going right until I come into parentheses or multiplication division, which I don't have, but I do have parentheses. So I'm just going to write this the way I would do it in my journal. 9 minus 5 is 4. So 9 minus 5. I'm actually going to go way down here so I can have room to write the answer. Is 4. And I have to bring everything else down. So all this is going to come down, and all this is going to come down, because I've already evaluated, if you will, or solved what's in the parentheses. So I'm bringing down a bracket. I'm bringing down 3.3 plus, and then I'm bringing down the minus 1.15 and the other bracket. So now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go on the left, and I'm going to continue to the right until I see addition or subtraction, whichever comes first. And the first thing I have is addition. So I'm going to add 3.3, or 3 and 3/10 plus 4. Let's do that over here. 3 and 3/10 plus 4. If this helps me, I could add a decimal and a 0, if that would help me to figure it out. 0 plus 3, when I'm adding, the decimal comes straight down. And 4 plus 3 is 7. So that gives me 7.3, or 7 and 3/10. And I'm going to bring down the rest of the problem, which is minus 1.15, or 1. Whoa. That's too big of a number. Minus 1.15, or 1 and 1500ths. There you go. And a bracket. So I'm left with two numbers, so now I can solve. Let's give myself some more room, because I decided to write big. So we have 7 5.3, or 7 and 3/10. That's the bigger number, right? We always subtract with the bigger number on top. And we're going to subtract 1 and 1500ths. And since I am subtracting, it follows the same rule as addition with the decimal. They have to be lined up. And so I'm going to bring the decimal straight down. And since there's no digit next to the 3, I'm just going to put a 0 to make it easier for me. 0 minus 5, I cannot do that, so we'll regroup from this 3, and this becomes 10. 10 minus 5, 5, 2 minus... Sorry, I lost the microphone. 2 minus 1 is 1. 7 minus 1 is 6. And that's my answer. 6 and 1500ths, or 6.15, which I'm just going to put it off to the side here. All right, good work. Next slide. And here we are on our final slide. So let's go ahead and solve this PEMDAS problem. Again, could say evaluate the expression, which means the same thing as solve. So we're just going to solve this straight down. Let's look for brackets first. So this one is tricky because it's giving us parentheses here and it's giving us brackets. And we haven't come across this before, but just know that brackets always come first. Always have to evaluate everything in the brackets first. Okay, so let me erase this so we can work this problem. So even though there are parentheses there, we're going to solve everything in the brackets first. So the first thing we have here in the brackets is parentheses, so we'll solve those. 18 divided by 3 is 6. So I'm going to bring down the 8 times 6 and the brackets here. And if I have to bring down also the 4 times 5 that's in parentheses, and I want to be adding that to the rest of the brackets. Now, inside the brackets, all I have left now is 8 times 6, which is 48. So then I'm going to bring down the addition and then the 4 times 5 that's in the parentheses. Okay, so now I can resolve the parentheses next, 4 times 5, which is 20. And I'm going to add that to 48. And that's, I'm down to 2 numbers, so I can just solve that. 48 plus 20 is 8 plus 0 is 8, and 4 plus 2 is 6. So the expression, or evaluating the expression, or solving the problem will give me the answer of 68.